Hey, welcome everybody to Castro's Comic Book Corner. I am here with Greg Moquin.
Yeah, Moquin.
Moquin.
Yeah.
I butcher your last name every time. Sorry. And then T.S. Luther. All right. And then we got T.S. Luther. We're going to be talking about campaigns and comics. And why don't you guys introduce yourselves a little bit better and tell us where you are from, what you're doing, how you doing? Greg.
Me?
Yeah.
I am Greg Moquin. Whatever you want to call him.
You don't know either?
SeerNova Comics. Used to be the creator of the flagship title, Seer Chronicles, that has just recently changed. And we have a bunch of other books like Ink, Scales, Mittens, Space Pilot, and a horror anthology called Chronicles of Horror. So I write a bunch of that stuff, and then I get people to draw it so it looks cool.
And Mittens is rad, and everyone needs to go get it. I own several copies. It's freaking awesome.
Very good.
Yeah, you didn't know. You didn't know that you had me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mittens is great. And how about you, T.S.?
My name's T.S. and I write comics like Hellion and Bash and Tokyo Fire for Professional Entropy. And then I have a new comic book coming out from Invader Comics called The Digger. And I'm all over the place, mostly on TikTok. So if you want to see this wonderful beard, you know, I'm always on there yapping about something. I also do comic books for Mr. Fish Comics and a bunch of other really cool indie people. Nothing for SeerNova yet. No one's ever asked me. It's fine. You know, I don't take it personally at all. I just sold a script to Lucky 33 Comics, which, again, why I'm a fan of Mittens. You can see the crossover there. Exactly, man. You're prepared. You had it.
Yeah.
Love those dudes. And then I just was walking around a Comic-Con like literally 20 minutes ago. That's why I hustled over here to be here for 3 o'clock. And
cool.
I had handed a bunch of free comics out to a bunch of people, and I got to talk to Sean Peacock of Danger Boy and Peppermint Desert, and I can't recommend it enough, and that dude is awesome. So I know I'm here to plug my stuff, but please go check that out. He was so nice and got me lots of cool stuff.
That's really cool, man. So what con were you at just now?
Great Lakes Comic-Con in Michigan. So if you're in the Macomb or Warren area, cities that people have never heard of, there's more cities in Michigan than Detroit. I know people don't believe it, and we always just say Detroit because, you know, it's a big place, but there are other cities, and they all have Comic-Cons, and people buy stuff at them.
I went to Great Lakes for boot camp.
Oh, no way.
I got kicked out pretty quick. I got kicked out really quick.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had to come here and that you had to get kicked out because
it's horrible. No, we had when we landed to go to boot camp, the snow had like just melted, and they had us running miles in nothing but shorts and t-shirts. And
sure, of course,
it was so fun.
It builds character like digging holes, right? That's what I understand. By the way, I know it looks fancy, like I have a really cool office. I'm in my brother-in-law's office. That artwork I did, this is stuff that I do for him for Christmas, and I play guitar, but he has better ones. So if you see anything cool behind me, it's all his stuff. My office looks really bad and is covered with indie comic books all over the place. So
I'm sitting on the floor in my bedroom with my messy bedroom behind me.
I meant to say this is all mine. I'm very professional, and we should get together, you know.
I used to have an office when we had our last apartment, but we moved multiple times, and now I don't have an office.
You took an arrow to the knee, and now you got to sit on the floor. That's always how it goes, man. The one thing that we all have in common in indie comics is no one is wealthy, and I always love that. I talk to pros sometimes. Like I got a chance to talk to Torrin Grunbeck, and she's got this beautiful cabin in the middle of the European wilderness, and I'm recording from my one-bedroom apartment covered by my kids' toys and all my comic books. You know, I'm like,
oh yeah. Well, it's like I said the other day. I said I'm making all the building an empire with the change from my couch cushions.
Right, exactly, man. I do appreciate that we're all having the same struggle, but I would love some coattails to ride. I would love.
I know, right?
You'd be like, well, I knew them back when they were in the apartment on the floor, so you know maybe you can throw me.
That's funny because I had suggested this the other day, just jokingly, but now I'm like seriously thinking about it, making some trading cards, indie creator trading cards, where like we could all put our face on there and like our list of accomplishments, even though they may not be very long lists. But we could get rookie cards and all kinds of stuff, man, and just make a big deal out of it. But I don't know. I'll have to look into that and see if I can get people to participate.
Nobody wants to see my mug on a card, but I'll get involved with whatever, man. I'm a tool. If someone says I get to put my name on something, I'm in.
There you go.
Blink twice more often, but I'm always down to do stuff like that.
Speaking of putting your name on something, tell us about Hellion and Bash.
Oh man,
I'm gonna throw this up here.
Like Invincible or anything like that, those superhero comics that aren't Marvel or DC, you're gonna dig Hellion and Bash, because the whole idea is who protects a sidekick from the superhero. And if you like things like Batman and Robin, or Speedy and Green Arrow, or even Spider-Man and Alpha, you sometimes ask this question: you have a superhero, he's got a kid sidekick, is that safe? Is that a good idea? And you have to suspend your disbelief when you're reading Batman and Robin, because Batman and Robin are rad, and you love Batman and Robin. But you don't love Gargoyle and Hellion. You don't know who the heck these guys are. So we can ask that question. And when none of the superheroes step up to punch Gargoyle in the face because he's being a bad caretaker to this kid, the supervillains step up. And that's what the entire comic book about. It's about, this superhero who is terrible and abuses his sidekick, and the superhero community doesn't do anything about it. So these super thieves and supervillains step up and save the kid. And it's all set in a brand new universe, so you can catch up on issue 2 with issue 1. There's no tie-ins, no reboots, no retcons. I couldn't do any of that if I wanted to, because no one will give me money to make more than one book. So, you can jump in pretty easily. I do have a publisher, so I'm completely lying. Someone did give me money to make this book, because it got funded in under an hour. I got in touch with a friend of mine from the first issue, and he said, "Hey, you do this comic book thing. I have a company. I want to start publishing stuff. How good do you do on this? Do they make money?" And I said, "No, they don't." And he goes, "Perfect. We just want to make art." And so he gave me money, and they started a publishing company called Professional Entropy. And their entire motto is, "Why make money when you can make comic books?" And really, really awesome dudes. And they're letting me do an ongoing series for them. So I always have to plug them, because that's a thing that I never thought anyone would let me do.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I need to get me a publisher.
You do. What you need to do is you need to meet 2 guys who made way more money than you from high school, and have some to throw around and go, well, we could burn some cash and make that weird dude's comic book. Why not? And sometimes you can meet other really cool companies like Invader Comics. That's another one that's on a pretty similar. They don't make a lot of money. They just want to help make comic books. And the crappy part about all these small publishers, if I can get on a soapbox for a second, is they're all having a really hard time right now because Diamond and their bubble has burst. Right?
Yes.
So a lot of those smaller publishers, mostly the ones that will take a chance on someone like me or Greg or Anthony and go, "Hey, let's give it a try," are now having a hard time because they don't have distribution. And that's usually all a small publisher can offer a new creator, because they can't give you a big advance. They can't give you a lot of money to make that comic book. What they can do is get your comic book in a store. And now they might not be able to, because Diamond was the only one who played ball with a lot of those small publishers. And Lunar and Penguin picked up a lot of the other stuff like Oni Press and things like IDW, but they didn't pick up Blood Moon or all these other really, really tiny publishers who take a chance on us. So if you see that stuff, if you've ever heard about it, go to your local comic book shop, tell them you want indie stuff, because they're doing direct marketing. A lot of what I do for Professional Entropy, because I also own a part of the company and I work with them, is that I reach out to a lot of local comic book shops going, "Hey, will you take a chance? Will you buy 5 copies, 2 copies? Can I send you something?" Our stuff shows up on time, unlike Image. Like, I promise it'll get there as a whole thing. It's not bent. You know how many copies I got of the different Spawn titles that were like bent to hell because Diamond threw it on a truck and it fell off the truck and they didn't go back and pick it up? Like, it was so frustrating. So they're having a rough time right now. So I'm lucky enough to work with these small publishers, and I want to keep doing that because Image isn't knocking on my door right now. And so, like, I tell people all the time, like, please go check out these small publishers. You might not have heard of them, but they're the only ones that will give me a chance. So please check them out.
Yeah, when I was living in Austin, and Bad Wabbit was just coming out, I was lucky enough to have a family member who owns a comic book store. So they were totally willing to let me put my book in there. And because they were well known within the neighborhoods and the city, other comic book stores took a chance on it. They're like, oh, that, you know, Titan Moon's carrying it, so, you know, I guess it's not bad. So, you know, I got to put it in about 4 or 5 different stores. But I can't do that where I'm at right now. Like, you know, I delivered the comics personally. Like, if it was like, yeah, we'll take 5 copies, I would take 5 copies to their store myself. But I live in Helena, Montana, and there's nothing here. There's nothing. This is the deadest comic book zone I have ever seen in my life. They only have one store here that's mostly just a gaming store for D&D and cards and stuff like that. And they have this little bitty corner in the back of the store that has vintage comics,
old floppy copies.
Yeah, and so it's like, other than that, there's nothing here. I mean, so
even if you're in an area that has a ton of that stuff, if they're not like a really popular store, a lot of those stores don't carry indie stuff, and they're not trying to be malicious. They just don't have the overhead or the space to carry it. I get so many, they're really, really like nice and like, you know, cordial with me, but they basically laugh me out of the store when I walk in with my indie stuff. They're like, if you don't have a publisher, and I go, oh, I do have a publisher. And they go, we were going to say no matter what you said. Like, we don't want to, we order from Diamond, or we did order from Diamond, and that's it. That's what we do. And that's all that really matters to them. And I've been like lucky enough to reach out to some shops across the country that are willing to, you know, get it and ship it. But that's a lot of overhead for us, right? It costs money for us to ship it and to get it into their hands. And there's not like there's a million local comic book shops, you know, around every single corner. You know, you're far from being in the only desert when it comes to comic books. And until they start carrying them at Walmart, we got to try really hard to get them where people will take them.
So who's the artist on Hellion and Bash?
Marcus Pedro. Really great. He's one of the best artists I've ever had the chance to work with. He's amazing. He was an artist out of Brazil. He worked with a lot of Portuguese language comic books. Specifically, he did a lot of stuff on Funktoon, which is kind of like the Brazilian version of Webtoon or Tapas. With a lot of indie stuff over there. And he had some really amazing portfolio pieces and was trying to work with Marvel and DC, but he really needed to get more stuff in America first before a lot of people would take him seriously. And he had no English language experience when it came to our comics. So me and him linked up because I'm always looking for different talent on all of those weird apps in foreign countries. And he took a chance and was willing to work with me. And we did a pitch packet for several publishers. They all laughed us out of the room, obviously, because look at me. No one's ever heard of this guy. So we teamed up and we did Hellion and Bash as a full issue. It got, you know, successful. So then we were working on issue 2, and then we got picked up by Professional Entropy. And now he's working on several other series, including, you know, the rest of Hellion and Bash and a few other side stuff. So Marcus Pedro, he's Marcus Pedro art on like everything. But go follow him, go check him out. He's going to get way bigger than me really, really fast. So if you want to work with him, now's the time. And he does amazing covers. He does design work. Incredible artist, and really, really fast too. I can't stress that enough. So many people that are good in the indie sphere still take too long. He is a professional through and through. I don't know why he's not working with Marvel yet, but it's bound to happen.
It's very, very hard to find any artist, especially in the indie, you know, community, that's fast, like ridiculous. Because like we're like you said, we're all poor, we're all broke, so it's not like we can just pay a full $3,000 for a full book all at once. And some of these guys, they, you know, you pay them by the page, and you know, they got their lives and they don't want to, you know, dedicate time to getting paid, maybe, you know. And so but like my guy Tommy, he's ridiculously fast. Like, we were sitting there, I had a dream that I had a cover that was an Akira homage cover, and I was like, dude, that would be really cool. And so I hit him up and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to try and draw this Akira homage. And he was like, I sent him the poster of Akira, you know, him walking towards the bike. And before I even finished telling him what I was planning on doing, he sent me a sketch. You mean like this? And I'm like, damn it, I was gonna do that. And he was like, I got it already. Okay. I was like,
Those are the
okay.
best.
And like, it's so fun, man.
I love being able to work with artists that are obviously way more talented than I will ever be when it comes to drawing. But the ones who are so good and so talented and have taken the time to hone the skill to do it professionally, so they know it needs to be done fast. They know how the composition works. And I mean, I don't mind working with people of different levels, but one of the reasons why I am poor is because I try to work with artists that deserve to get paid because of their professional, acumen. Like turning in that concept art that fast, getting you a thumbnail like that takes real skill, and a lot of people kind of overestimate it or underestimate it. Even if they can do good work, doing it fast and consistently is the name of the game with comics, because you can do one awesome cover, but can you do 14 awesome panels on 2 different pages by Monday? Because that's what we're talking about. And that's how you get paid too. And I get to work with Marcus Pedro, and Sky Hawkins is the artist I work with and co-creator of Tokyo Fire, the other somewhat successful indie book I've done. And we were also working on an Akira homage cover. An exact same thing just happened to me like 2 days ago, where I was like, hey, this is what I think for issue 2. And she goes, oh, like this. And it was like immediate. And I'm like, yeah, see, this is why you're the artist. And I write the silly words on the page.
Yeah, man. It's awesome when you get a good artist. So Greg, I know had a campaign.
Yeah, I did.
And
it's not live anymore.
Yeah, it's been canceled, but that's okay. Sometimes you just gotta, take a step back and regroup. But you do have one that's in pre-launch, correct?
Yep.
And it is called Night Watch.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about Night Watch?
So that character is actually in the failed campaign. But he's more updated. He's a MMA fighter turned vigilante. He's on like a revenge path with the Russian mafia called the Pavlovs. Yes, I named them that. To like find who his best friend's actual murderer is, so like they can finally pay for what they've done. So yeah, the first issue, it's a lot of action. He is an MMA fighter, and then he actually retires in issue 1, and he's just going to dedicate himself to be a vigilante going forward. It's based off of me, like if I was jacked and an MMA fighter. So
it's very real to life.
Yeah, I do this at night. So, but speaking of fast, the art is Fishley.
I was gonna say, I'm like, this looks familiar, almost like I saw these pages. Me and Fish were in our meeting to go over the editing for some of his stuff, and he goes, "Hold on, I gotta finish this really cool thing. What do you think of this?" And I'm like, "Oh, I recognize this guy and this armored car. Oh, this is Night Watch. I've seen these pages before.
Yeah,
this is awesome."
Yeah, so he was sick when he was working on this last year, and I'm like, I just need a cover at least by our virtual con in November, and he's like, okay, and then he finished the book. And I was like, oh, well, that was fast. He's like, oh, I thought I was going slow. I was like, you are the fastest artist that I've paid so far, not to knock Adam Fields or anyone else, but
I have to say he was going slow. I work with Fish. I was working with him on a different book as he goes, hold on, I got to finish these pages for Night Watch. Can you help me out as we work on this other thing? Can we do both? And so he was sick and working on another project as he was cranking these out. And he goes, I don't know if I'm going fast enough. And I'm like, dude, look, what are you talking about? That man is magic. Yeah. And he completed another book while this was happening. Yeah. And that was slow for him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, I'm normally faster than this. And I was like, how? I just happen to have the money to actually pay all at once because
oh wow,
my upstairs of my house, it's where I am. So yeah, I was like, I'll just pay that now so I can this will be the first comic to actually have all done, and I can actually put my Kickstarter and be like, look, it's all done.
Heck yeah.
So usually it's just 80% or less that it's finished. So yeah, that's Night Watch.
That's cool.
It's the it's the first issue of a 3-issue plot arc. There is multiple plot arcs that I already have like planned out, and there's a character that's in that is based off my dad, and he's also in that failed series. That's why it was called the Seer Chronicles. But yeah, so it's pretty
That's cool. That's cool, man.
Fish for any more arcs, or is it just going to be this first issue and then?
No, I'm like he's gonna just yeah, I'm gonna chain him to my basement.
He's so I love working with him. I do all the editing for like Green Zone, which is live on Kickstarter right now too, I believe. I don't know when this is going out, but definitely still go check that out. And I do editing for Fish. I'm his main editor, and when he was working on this, I was like, that's an awesome design. Are you going to be able to do this again? He was like, I don't know, but I want to. So if you can get him to do it, he had a blast like drawing this stuff. And I love working with Fish. If everyone could work with Fish, you'd get so many books done. It's like magic, and he's so consistent. So I haven't read it, so I can't speak to it. I like your other stuff, but the artwork I know will be gorgeous all the way through. And if you can keep him employed, that'd be great because he keeps me employed. So
yeah, I was like, well, you're definitely on for this series. Like, you're not gonna go anywhere. I don't like when it's like a different artist each issue, because I did that for the Seer Chronicles I didn't want to by choice. That's how it happened.
That's part of what happens with indie comics, right? Like, I get frustrated because people hear indie and they think amateur, and that's usually not what it is. It's usually pretty professional, but we just don't work with the
I am an amateur. I am a total noob.
Have you sold your books for money?
I have.
Then you're a professional, man. Yep. And you know, and that does matter. That the difference is small. You might not be big, but you're still pro. And one of the reasons why our books have to make those kinds of concessions is because we don't have thousands of dollars every single time it comes around. And when you get the chance to work with an artist like Fish and to finish a book, that's a feat unto itself, because most people don't get this far. Most people don't even get to have a Kickstarter, let alone a failed one. Right. And like, to have the forethought to go, hey, I'm going to take this down. I don't think it's going to succeed, and not give up and go, I have this other cool book that ties into it, and to be able to come back to Seer eventually. Like, I respect that, and I'm proud of you for not like just ending it there, because you got some really cool stuff in here to come back to. And I'm excited for Night Watch, and I'm really excited again to get paid in Circuity because you're gonna keep Fish employed, and that'll keep me going. But the stuff, the ideas that you have for this, and like how personal it is, that's the reason why I buy indie comics, right? And I know everybody has it, even if you go pro. But I've heard a lot about the people that have influenced Frank Miller. You know what I mean? I have not heard a ton of stuff that have influenced Greg Moquin. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate that stuff, and that makes it special. And I love that you were like, no, I still got to put this other one out, because how many people have we seen in our sphere, whether it's on TikTok or Facebook, just indie comics in general? They're like, it didn't get funded, so I'm done. I'm going to go back to Kmart. I'm like, well, you can go back to Kmart. You got to pay the bills, but that's not a different thing. Let's make the next book, man. Like, you can't let it lie. You can't end it like this, because if you do, that means that I have more reason to end it on my side, and I don't want to give up, and I need an excuse to go, well, Seer didn't give up, so I can't give up. Like, I got to keep going. So I love hearing that, man.
Yeah. It's...
Oh, God.
Oh, no, go for it.
Oh, I just have a lot of stories to tell, and like now, because I have to retool the Seer Chronicles and rebrand it and everything, it's even more stories to tell now. So I'm just like, I was saying to Dylan, my business partner, last night, I was like, so we're going to do this instead. And he's like, actually, the third issue works as a first issue for like Fireproof. And I'm like, well, we're going to do that then. So that's what we're going to do.
My never-ending plight is that I have so many stories to tell that I start writing one, and then I start like giving an idea for another, and then I start writing that one, and I forget to go back to the one I was started. And so I've got like 4 or 5 different stories that are like maybe a chapter in, and then I'm like, oh wait, I forgot about that.
I even have my favorite movie ever is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I have a comic that's like that. That's just showing on my Google Drive.
Like I don't think I've ever met another creator who wasn't like, well, I have like 9 basically finished projects, but like I don't have the money to make all of them, so I'm just gonna wait there. It's gonna wait until I get the chance. And I will say, like, if you ever get the chance to, if you can afford to make these things in the background, one of the reasons why I've been able to be picked up by these small publishers is because what's really easy to say yes to is when you have a full finished comic already, because they might like the pitch, but they deal with so many people who aren't able to finish it even past the pitch that they might love those 7 pages, but they're going to pick the thing that's already done because they know it'll at least make some money. And I've been able to get yeses where I used to get, just complete apathy rather than even no's, because I've had full issues ready to go and hand them. And then when they go, hey, we do want to get this, but we want to know that you have issue 2 and 3. How fast can you write them? And you hand them the thumb drive that already has issues 1 through 7 written, scripts ready, and an artist on board. Like that goes a long way in showing that you take it seriously and you're able to deliver the work. Because even on the small scale of us, like even when we're working with these really small publishers that are going to crowdfund it just like we do, there's still so much competition. And I hate to say competition like we're in competition with each other, but more like there's only so many spots that can be filled. And so you have to have all of your ducks in a row. So I love that we all, like, everybody I talked to was like, well, I got these like 9 scripts are just sitting there. It's already done. If I ever got the chance to publish this book, I would love to do this other one in the same universe that ties in like this. And sometimes like if you meet someone who's really done with money and starts a publishing company and goes, hey, we're going to publish Hellion and Bash for the first arc. And if it sells well enough, do you have anything else in there? And you can go, oh, do I? Like how fast can we fail? Because I have so many other ideas. Like it's pays to be prepared, as long as you use your ADHD for good. With great power comes great responsibility. When you jump over to that other script and that other script, you have to eventually come back. You have to eventually go around in a circle and finish the other projects that you started.
And that's what I use, I guess, them for all the different scripts, is to take a break from one of them.
From one to the other.
So I'll take a break from Bad Wabbit and go work on Midnight in Montana, then take a break from that and go do PD or the Paranormal Kids Club, and I just to get a breather. But I've got 21 issues of Bad Wabbit planned.
Heck yeah.
And I'm only on book 6 as far as finished with the writing. But I'm so glad that I have Tommy, but I have to keep the scripts from him until I'm ready to go forward, because if he gets a hold of them, he's gonna draw them all. And then if I have to change something, it just so I try to keep them a little close to the chest, and only when I'm 100% sure that the script is ready, I'll send it to him, and he usually finishes it within a week or 2. So it's like, okay. So we've talked about Hellion and Bash. We've talked about Night Watch, and seeing as self-serving as I am, I want to talk about Bad Wabbit a little bit. I don't know how many people know about Bad Wabbit. Bad Wabbit is a very personal thing for me, because I started writing it when I got hit with a severe heart condition.
Oh man.
And I was in bed for like 3 months, and I was going nuts and thinking of ways to keep my mind sane. So I started drawing. I had never really drawn before, so I started drawing, learning how to draw, and one of my first drawings was Bad Wabbit, but I didn't really have anything. It was just a little doodle, and then I started cultivating him, and everybody was like, hey man, that's a really cool little character, you should do something with him. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do with him. I started putting on shirts and stuff like that, and then they're like, nah man, you need to give him like a comic book or something. So I kind of just did that, I just kind of did it, whatever. But a lot of him, it comes from me, as far as like who he is. And I grew up in not so great situations and circumstances, And so I got like PTSD, and he's got PTSD, and all this stuff that he's going through is kind of loosely based on a lot of stuff I've seen, done, been through. And he's an alcoholic. He drinks a lot. He tries to cope with his trauma by getting drunk. And he ends up getting forced, for a better, for a lack of a better term, getting forced onto an adventure that, unbeknownst to him, is going to change him and the world that he lives in. The world that he lives in is basically a dying world, devoid of humans. All the pollution, all the nuclear waste, all the stuff has mutated animals into anthropomorphic creatures. And what resources there are hoarded by the Pangolin Empire. And they basically don't want the world to heal because they would lose their power over what little they control. And so that's what it's about. It's about the world getting a not so heroic hero, because he doesn't want to do it. But it's like, that's another part that comes from me, is there's a lot of things I don't want to do, but I'll do them because nobody else is doing it. I see something wrong, I'll see if somebody else is going to step in, but then they don't. I got to do it. I got to step in and say, hey, look, chill.
I mean, that really ties together all three projects, right? Night Watch and Hellion and Bash. It's kind of what it's about. It's not just unlikely heroes, but it's heroes that, like, they're not really heroes, but they got to do what needs to be done. Like, how come somebody else isn't doing it? And if they're not doing it, I guess I have to, right? Like,
exactly.
That really is it. It's really rad.
Yeah, and he's got a really cool little sidekick that he meets in the first issue, Toxic Pig.
You got a plushie of him? That's so rad.
Oh yeah, man. I was gonna put these on the Kickstarter, but nobody wanted them, so
that's why.
My kids have so many stuffed animals that I would totally have loved to have something cool like that.
So we had a Mittens plushie and a Griff plushie, but like we sold out of them because I only had like a certain amount made. And the last Comic-Con that we were at in November was Saratoga Comic-Con, which is like 40 minutes away from me. And there was this like couple that came up to the table like kind of near the end of the last day, and they're like, so we don't really like comics. I mean, you're in a Comic-Con. Yeah, but like we both really like those plushies, and like she likes pandas and he likes cats, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, do you want the plushies then? Because I'm trying to sell them. And it was right after I said to Dylan, like, we haven't sold a plushie yet, and like, they're so cute.
Plushies are good if you have the audience for it.
Right.
I tried too soon, I think, to push the plushies. Because nobody knows who the hell Toxic Pig is yet, or at least they didn't. Now he's getting more of a following. It's like one of those sidekicks that everybody ends up liking more than the main character. But he's a cute little pig in a gas mask, so what's not to like?
Any merch tie-in is always going to be hard, because when you're starting out indie, you don't have fans of your book, let alone fans so much of your book that they want to buy everything else you offer. The problem is when you're going to have a few fans, even if it's 20. Those 20 fans who do become ride or die, they want all the stuff, and you can't always offer it because you're like, listen, I love you and I want to give you everything that you want, but the 20 of you, that's not enough for me to make a plushie. That's not enough for me to make a t-shirt. And like, I've had people begging me for more merch. And the one thing I did do this time around was stickers, is I had 2 stickers made, and I'm like, I'll do stickers this time around. But I had people asking for like t-shirts and action figures, and I'm like, we're gonna sell 4 action figures, guys. I love you, and I would love to have an action figure of these guys too, but I can't. You know how much it costs to make an action figure? I can't sell these things if I do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it costs so much to get that kind of merch, and then you try to charge somebody a little more than you paid so you can make some kind of profit, and they're like, I'm not paying that. I don't even know what that is. And it's like,
Batman. Who the hell is the gargoyle? I don't want to fucking gargoyle. Like,
oh man.
Even with our books, it's already a tough sell. But the thing that people need to understand when it comes to indie comic books or comic books, even in general, the margin is not good on them. You kind of have to sell some merch because the merch has a better margin. It costs way less to make that merch and sell that for more than it does a comic book. Because no one can buy a 22-page indie comic book for $36.
Yeah.
You know, so the economics are not necessarily in our favor.
Yeah. I'm doing trading cards. It's gonna be my first time doing trading cards, but I'm doing it as a stretch goal because I want to make sure that the audience is there. You know, I don't want to go put out money for things because that's what I was doing when I first started doing these Kickstarters. Was I would go and buy it with my own money and have it on hand, and then hopefully somebody would want it, and then I ended up getting stuck with all this stuff that nobody really wanted, and I'm like, you know, like I paid I want to see if I can find it. I paid $800 for 100 of these really awesome coins because I was like, Foxy Fox is a pirate, and I figured everybody was gonna want a pirate doubloon.
I mean, I do, but man, that's so much. That is such a cool coin, though.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, I'm only, they're only
keyboard. That's $800.
I mean, I had them on there for like $15 to $20.
That's not bad. That's not bad for like.
But considering how much I spent on them,
right?
It's like I'm just trying to make it back. But me being the nice guy that I am, I always end up just giving them away.
Yeah.
Especially if it's somebody who really likes Bad Wabbit and is really into it. But we talked about art with both of y'all's. I would like to call out Tommy Guns, this guy. He, by trade, is an animator, and he came down off the animation pedestal to, slum it up with me in comic books, and he has brought amazing life to every panel of Bad Wabbit. So cool. I mean, it looks fantastic. I couldn't imagine doing Bad Wabbit without him, and he has already agreed to do every single issue. He said, "Do not let anybody else touch this comic book. This is mine. I want to do it." And so we've got new characters coming in the new one. The Frog People. I grew up on Ninja Turtles. I love the Ninja Turtles.
You can tell by the anthropomorphic that you like Teenage Ninja Turtles. I'm so surprised.
But so I got the Frog People. They're going to be introduced, and they all talk like Michelangelo. That's their dialogue. That they were raised. It's a whole backstory, but they were raised by they were rescued back during the Anthro Wars to be like in this oasis, and the guy that saved them was like a surfer skater dude, and so that's the way they talk. That's the way.
They're all from California, and they're all skaters.
Exactly. So they walk around, "Hey, dude, what's up, bro?" So it's gonna be really cool to see all that, and a whole village of them just throwing up the shaka.
That makes me so happy. As someone who talks like a TMNT at all times, I've had to be like in like serious business meetings and be like, "Hey, listen, I have to apologize because I'm going to call you dude, man, bro, like on a normal basis. I can't say anything is cool. Everything is dope, like in every other sentence." So I love to hear that, man. And that was not a knock, by the way. Like biker mice from Mars and are all gorgeous, and they come through in this, and not in a like derivative way. It's not like, oh, clearly he only reads TMNT. It's like, oh, he was inspired by this. It looks so cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a great series, and I think it's going to be an ongoing. It's like this ongoing thing of redemption, and I think everybody can really sink their teeth into it. As far as like the underdog story, everybody loves that, and I think it's going to really come through by the end of the series. I'm hoping with all my might that it gets to become a TV series of some sort, but we'll wait. We'll see how it goes. I have been tagging movie producers and so many of my posts. I'm like, Kevin Smith, hello.
Yeah, my dad used to say that my cousin that I didn't really know, that was on his side of the family, he knows people in Hollywood, and he's like, I could see Mittens as something, and I'm like, I would have to be very close to the project because I don't want someone to fuck it up.
Oh yeah,
because Josh Harris would definitely have to be still in charge of the art.
Yeah,
it's that art style, it can't change. So
yeah. See, that's my thing.
I'll give up anything. You guys can change it all you want. I got other stories. I respect them as artists, and I love that for them. But listen, I will sell out in a heartbeat. So if you want to talk to me, if you're like, listen, I couldn't get Mittens. They want to be too close to the project. Bad Wabbit, they want to be involved. I don't need to be involved at all. You can have it. You can make the check out to me or cash, and I am in. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
Comics that are just like that. So then I would just probably still get attached to it.
Yeah, I can't do that with Wabbit, man. It's too much of my heart into it. So if I was to do a TV show, of course they'd have to add stuff, just to lengthen it, because it takes 10 minutes to read a Bad Wabbit comic. So you can't really make a whole a 30-minute TV series or episode out of 10 minutes.
Like an Adult Swim show.
Well, that's what I want to do, something like that. Timothy Joe Himes, I don't know if anybody knows who he is, but he has said multiple times that he could see it as something like what is that, Primal?
Yeah, that Tarkovsky joint. I love that one, man.
Yeah, Primal's really good.
Yeah.
But just kind of little snippets of episodes or whatever, and I'm all for that. But I definitely want to be involved. I definitely want to make sure that they don't ruin my boy, and I want to stick to the basic the base of the story. I want to make sure that it is a redemption story. He is who he is in the comic book, because knowing nowadays, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
they'll turn him into a girl.
Process, yeah, the girl in space, no longer a rabbit.
Yeah,
middle name
exactly.
Rabbit.
Yeah. Her last name just happens to be Rabbit. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Some of those are really cool. The way that we did Tokyo Fire, me and Sky Hawkins, we created it to be an animated movie potentially. We went in it with a lot of that in mind, as a concise thing. And she has done some animation stuff and does a lot of design work on that side of the field. And even I will say, you can get into talks with some of these smaller animation houses, because a lot of times what they do is they'll purchase it on spec to go, hey, we're going to turn this into a 30-second short, and we're going to add it into our list of things. It might never become something, but there's always chances, because comic books are IP farms. That is, you look at the ecosystem, the hierarchy of comic books, where they fit into entertainment in Hollywood. They're IP farms. So don't discount it, if you get a small enough following, if you just talk to the right person, we joke, but they can get turned into movies. If you look at Keen Spot, very small publisher that almost no one had ever heard of. They had this little tiny book that was kind of a rom-com that got turned into a major motion picture, right? It had Owen Wilson and J-Lo, and people are like, this was based on a comic book? I would have never thought. It happens, and that's how it happens. And you'd be surprised. And we make really cool things that work really well in animation, because what is a comic book if not a storyboard? Yeah. So it's not outside of the realm, to do something like that, unless you're an artiste and you got to be involved. Again, then you call TS and you can have it all. I accept gift cards and Walmart or McDonald's, either way. I got kids at home. But like, I think that the Bad Wabbit would be awesome. Same thing with Mittens. Night Watch, never gonna happen because Fish Lee is gonna need millions of dollars. To find out what price he has. And the guy who edits for him, I hear, is a jerk and is gonna want a cut of that. So, but Mittens definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd watch Mittens, man. That looks cool, man.
I wasn't joking. I'm a big fan of Mittens.
Mittens is great, dude.
Yeah, there was a stretch goal that we had for the 3rd issue that he's still working on. I just went on my Google Drive because I was going to be like, I wonder if he added any more pages, and he did. So I'm happy. Yeah, we had a stretch goal. It was like, if we hit 8,000, I'm like, we're going to just make it 8,000 because, it's going to take you a long time to do this. He's animated our trailers before, Josh, but I'm like, what if we did like a pilot episode? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, well, how much would you want to charge? And he's like, let's make it 8,000. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So like we made 5,000, but like, I'm like, if we did make that, then that would have been made too. And then we'd be like, well, we can show that to people. But we are doing that for the trade Kickstarter, which is now going to be next year. So.
And like something that we don't talk about a lot, like when it comes to like the business of not just indie comics, but comics in general, is it's a lot like syndication when it comes to TV shows, right? Like people think about Seinfeld, all those old sitcoms. The goal was to get to 100 episodes because then they can go into syndication. They can pop up on all these other channels. A trade is like syndication for indie comics, especially because we don't have to pay more for the artwork and stuff. Like that stuff we already made, we're putting it together in a package that more people like because a lot of people wait for the trades. And if you see a book and you're like, I want to wait for it to get to a trade, but it's an indie book, please go buy the floppy copy. I know you want the trade. I get messages every day. Where can I pick up the trade for Helene and Bash? I'm like, bro, it's on issue 2. You got to get me there first,
Yeah.
So if you hear about someone putting out a trade, go and support it because that is where we can actually recoup some of our costs when it comes to.
I have a question about trades, and me being the newest, in bunch, when it comes to comic books and the knowledge therein, trades are typically an arc, right? You have your, So my series is an ongoing thing. It goes from literally one book to the next. So like when you open up book 2, you are starting where book 1 ended. And that's the theme I'm trying to keep throughout the entire thing.
Sure.
So does that work in trade form?
Yeah. Because by your logic, right? The last one that you would leave off, say issue 4, right? So your trade's going to be issues 1 through 4. Issue 4 has a cliffhanger to set up issue 5, right?
Yeah. Well,
so
they all do.
There you go. It still works. It's just a collection rather than individual story arc.
I was trying to think and then I was overthinking what you were saying. But then I'm like, no, there's Lori Calcaterra. She has Path of the Pale Rider.
Right.
It's volume 1. Volume 2, you just keep doing different volumes.
And they're not contained arcs. There's not like, oh wow, I really like the first arc. It's not what it is. It's just a collection of those issues.
Yeah.
Manga does that a lot. It doesn't come to a clear, concise ending. Arc 1 isn't even volume 1. It's just where they collected. Every single Marvel DC book going on, usually, so I say every, but most don't have a clear and concise arc just in every 4 issues. Sometimes they do, and sometimes it works really well. But don't overthink it. It's a collected volume. You can still totally do that. It's worth it, and it does sell better. It's just pure statistics.
Well, if this Kickstarter funds, because we're doing
1 through
4, when it funds, we're going to do the next one is going to have the trade because it's going to include book 5, and at the end of book 5, it's when Bad Wabbit's kind of laid down his fate. Basically, he gets to learn who he is in the grand scheme of this adventure he's about to have to go on.
He's going into his Jedi cave to face
basically, and he gets to talk to the Elder Frog, who's kind of like a Chong / wizard. So he's like a wizard, but like Chong style. So he gets to take a literal trip and talk to the spirits. And it's I can't wait to see this one drawn out because I put some stuff in there. I looked at a lot of old Doctor Strange comics and stuff like that to find trippy stuff to put in there, and so I had to write that out. But some of that stuff is going to look really neat, and I can't wait to see it. But like back what I was saying though, book 5 will end that first volume, and that'll be that trade that we're going to push on the next Kickstarter. So when this Kickstarter funds, that'll be the next goal, and it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be great.
I love that for you, man. That's really, really rad. And when it comes to like the story arc thing, like I said, like getting to that point is so cool. And we sadly, like, well, we're all dreamers. We all look towards it. And we're like, if I can get to issue 5, this really neat thing happens. And I see so many people like, oh, cool. When you get to that really neat thing, let me know. And
yeah.
Like,
No,
it's cool.
Yeah.
I promise. I'm excited about that thing because I've been dreaming about it. But it's a good time all the way through.
Please
go check out issue number 2 of Hellion and Bash so I can get to issue 4. You know?
Yeah, and that's what I don't think a lot of people understand is they don't get it. We need to sell book 1 to make book 2 and 2 to make 3. If you're waiting for 3 and you're not buying book 1 and 2, you're going to be waiting a lot longer.
I joke and like I say like, hey, go check this out. I have a publisher on board. Like I need to prove to them that I'm worth it. That really is the case. Like a lot of these small ones, even if you're just doing it yourself, is like I might not make it to issue 3 if I can't do well enough on issue 2. I'm never going to give up, but I might have to switch to a different project or something. Mm-hmm. So like if you're enjoying anything that you see, if you look at it, if there's just like an inkling of, hey, this seems like something I might enjoy, go pick it up. Especially like a lot of our books, we're not asking for $30, $50. You know, if you have $5, $10 somewhere in there, there's usually a book in our collections that you would want to check out and ride the wave. The cool thing about an indie comic book, it's like that hipster mentality. Like you found a punk band from the 90s that no one's ever heard of. Like you could be our #1 fan. There's only so many. I can count them all on one hand. You can be the coolest guy in the room. No one's ever heard of Hellion and Bash. You can be the one guy. Think about how much street cred you'll have. If you go and check out Bad Wabbit, I can't really talk about Night Watch because Seer has more followers than both of us put together. You've been in it a lot longer, so I get it. Like I remember seeing Mittens. That was like the first time I had saw any of your stuff, and I was like, God, I gotta get there one day. I will say, not jealous, just envious. And I do I want what you have? Sure. Do I want you to have it? Maybe. Like it is really cool to see that you keep going with all of them. And when it comes to our fan bases, like I've seen people kind of like try to troll us sometimes where it's like, oh, you're not Marvel. It's like, we know, and we're thankful for like the hundreds of people that have checked it out, right? Even if they didn't buy everything. Like you don't make stuff, so you might not understand. You're just a troll in the comments, but we're thankful for even one person that stops by to buy something.
Yeah.
That's more than a lot of us even thought would ever try out our comic books. So
well, when someone tries to knock me or tell me, oh, well, you're not this and you're not that, I'll be like, well, at least I have 2 #1 bestsellers. What about you?
Right, exactly. Like, I did the thing, and I'm so proud of it. And you're never going to get me going, oh, I wish I had 7,000 followers. Like, I think my lucky stars that any of them sold. The fact that I sold enough to sell the next one is the biggest win possible for me. So, like, I think right now I have like 37 backers on the Kickstarter, and I can't believe that I have more than one. So I'm going to be over the moon for 37. Do I need more? Of course, because I'm greedy like that. I would love to have the actual goal be met. But
it's difficult to judge. It's difficult to judge how many people are actually going to back it when you're like doing your pre-launch and you see also like 20-something people are following it, 30-something following it. Because, you know, some people follow it, but then when it launches, they forget to clock back in. And, you know, and so you may have 40, 50 people following and only 30, 25, 30 people come back and actually start.
We had 23 followers on the Seer Chronicles 1 through 3. And I was like, this is weird. Like, so that was already having me like kind of off. And then we launched it and then we had 7 more followers, not backed. Like they just followed it.
Yeah.
So, I'll get to that later. And then
I got 23 now, so hopefully, we can double that.
Come and a lot of people that have backed it never followed it as well. Mm-hmm. Like the thing, like they don't mean one to another. If you have more followers, that does usually lead statistically to more sales, but it's not one to one. Like I had 52 followers for Hellion and Bash issue 2, and I have 38 backers. And knowing through the links, because you can see where people have gone through, like you can make a lot of affiliate links to how they got to your Kickstarter page. Almost 75% of the backers right now were not the people who followed it. So it's like it almost means nothing, except for it's cool that people were interested in your project going forward. You know,
I was talking to Carissa Grant, and she just pumps comics out like it's water.
Like a month.
Yeah, and I'm like, how? But she hates the whole like pre-launch thing with the followers, and I was like, yeah, me too, because I got like 23, and for some reason I'm just like, what is happening right now? And she's like, yeah, but then Lori gets less followers, but then makes more money. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. But I'm like, what if like Kickstarter added a thing where like if you followed and you're like an early adopter person, or you're already early adopter because you're backing the Kickstarter, but if you actually followed it and you back it and don't back out, you should be able to, there should be some kind of tier or something somehow where
that'd be interesting.
So that'd be really good.
That might take more coordination, but there's got to be something there. Have you guys messed around with any other crowdfunding platforms? Have you done anything over there?
GoFundMe.
GoFundMe? Okay.
That's about it.
I'm guessing,
We did Indiegogo when we first started, and it like failed because I didn't listen to Dylan at first because like he's like a marketer and stuff.
Sure.
So, that's like his day job, like his business is marketing and web design and stuff. And I deliver pumps to people. So I hate it. So so I didn't like listen to him like back in 2017, and I'm like, oh, let's just launch Indiegogo. And I'm like, I have no art for anything, but here you go. And then we made like a flyer thing. He did on Photoshop, and then we put that up, and we made like $292. Thanks, Mom. And then like, that was it. Like he's like what failed was we don't have a following, and I'm like, yeah. And then he made me read a book, and I'm like, now I gotta read. Like, yeah,
asking too much.
What is this? It's called the $100 Startup. That's what it's called, and it's great. So then I took their blog post or whatever is on their website, and then I made my own, and then he made it even better. But like I made my own. It's actually on Indie Comics Dispatch if it's still on there, and it's somewhere else that Aaron Dowan put it somewhere. If that website's still up,
I believe it's
yeah, it's like 21 steps of like crowdfunding, like what you should do before you actually start doing crowd. Because people come to me, it's really funny because I'm not a pro at all. So they come to me and then they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna launch a Kickstarter. Is there like anything I should do?" And I'm like, "You should get a following." And they're like, "Yeah, but I don't have one." I was like, "Then don't launch the thing yet." And then they're like, "But I want the money." I'm like, "Do you actually want to make a project, or you just want the money?"
Right?
Like, well, yeah. And I'm like, that didn't answer my question. So then I go and look at their Kickstarter like preview page, and then I'm like, why is your goal? This has actually happened in the past.
$30,000.
$75,000.
Yeah,
and they're like
ridiculous number.
Well, so there's this one reward. There's this one kid. I think he lived in like Alabama or something. He's like, so he's like, well, so there's like a Comic-Con that's here, and then I was gonna actually like get a plane ticket. Like, there's a reward, and I was gonna have a plane ticket, and two lucky people get to like join me at my table. And I'm like, they don't know who you are. What are you talking about? So I was telling Dylan all about that. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And then that person disappeared off the face of the planet. So I was just like, yeah, it's just that happens all the time. There's like people like that.
And even if you're not delusional when it comes to that, you are, and you just don't realize it. You know what I mean? Like the first time we had launched, I didn't go with Kickstarter. I had heard about Zoop because I was listening to the Off Panel podcast, and I was trying to find my way into indie comics. And I had made a comic book that no one had heard of called Growing Up, and no one read it, no one bought it because obviously it didn't, because it wasn't on Kickstarter. It was just on Comixology, and no one gave a crap. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this wrong. I need to do pitch packets. So I spent my life savings, worked with amazing artists, got to work with some people who worked at Marvel, and I sent it to all the big publishers, and they all said no. So I sent it to all the small publishers. They all said no. And I said, I'm doing something wrong. And so I reached out to some people who knew what they were doing, and they said, no, you need to be making your own indie comic books. And to do that, you need to get on a crowdfunding thing. So I found Zoop, and I went there with Zoop. I said, I want $15,000, I think, and they laughed at me. They're like, "No one's gonna back this for $1,000, kid. 15,000?" I go, "Okay, how much can I ask for? Can I do 7? Because 7 would get me, the full issue, and we both get paid." And they're like, "No one's getting paid. Like, what do you mean? Like, put $3,000 so you can pay your artist, because she's way too good for you. She's not gonna keep working with you if she doesn't get paid. So put down $3,000 and beg every person you ever met ever to give you $1. Maybe you'll get enough money." And that's what happened, and it worked, and that got me enough of a following. And so I jumped on TikTok and said, hey, I want to do this thing. I'm working with this artist who's going to leave me because she deserves way more than this. Will somebody help me? And I started to build that following, and I found people like Greg and a lot of other people on TikTok, and we built a little community, and that's enough to at least get me some money on these other platforms as we go. And I'm going to go back to Zoop for the Digger. That's where that one's going, but I'm on Kickstarter for those. And I've tried other platforms, and they're all awesome, and they all have their pros and cons. But the big thing is the audience there? Are they willing to buy your thing, or is your audience willing to go there and buy that thing?
Yeah.
Because never underestimate the fact that people don't like some stores, right? I know people in real life are like, I don't go to Target. Fuck Target. And I'm like, well, why? What is it? What's wrong with Kickstarter? Why would you go there? They're like, I just don't like it. It's green. It's weird. And I go, oh, okay. But you like me, and you like the comic, and you said you'd give me money for it, and that's where it's sold. And they go, I don't care. Go fall in a hole. And then they unfollow you because they don't like Kickstarter for some reason. They have a strange bias against it for whatever reason. So it's something you have to keep in mind is you could build a giant following, or you can build a little one, and that doesn't mean anything, but you have to do it either way. Like you have to build the audience, and a small piece of that audience will give you money, and a small piece of the people who give you money will come back for the next one. And it's that battle of attrition each time. But it all comes from that trickle down of you got to get onto social media and talk about your project, and you got to do silly dance videos sometimes, and you got to do the ice bucket challenge and all of that stupid crap that you go, I don't want to do that. I want to freaking write comic books. And it doesn't work without it, because you don't have a friend named James Tynion who could get you over at Image or at DC. You don't have a rich uncle, maybe you do, but most people don't, that'll just back you for $10,000 to get the first issue off the ground.
I mean, I have some uncles with some money, but they ain't giving it to me.
Giving it to you, right? Exactly. and some of those uncles are weird. You don't want to talk to them, let alone look them in the eye for more than 5 minutes. So like you got to get on, and you got to make friends, and that's the beautiful part. And it sucks sometimes that we all hand the same $5 bill around, but it does help, and it does help to commiserate and go, listen, Night Watch looks rad. I make this thing. Let's at least talk about it. And sometimes that's what you need to like survive, is to know that we're not in it by ourselves. And the coolest thing that I find is when people want to be a fan of my stuff just because they don't think they're allowed to like Marvel Comics, because people are bullies on the internet, and people have told me that it's too late for me to like Batman, and Batman's just for me. And the cool thing about indie comics is most of them are for everybody. And you can find those people, and you think that there's not enough space, and you think that there might not be people who are interested. And I'm here to tell you that there are. I have 1,500 followers on TikTok, which I know is not a lot compared to like the Kardashians, but it's
more than us.
It's huge, right? To a lot of people like us, and I can't believe it. And like how, why, I don't know. Sometimes I do the dance videos. Like I said, maybe if you showed a little bit more belly and did the dance, Greg, you'd have it. But like,
no.
But like the thing is like I don't want to be an influencer, and neither do you guys, right? Like we didn't get on the social media to do that stuff, but it is a necessary evil, and no one's going to give you $75,000 to fly out to sit at your table because they don't know you. And you know how they get to know you is by getting on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter or whatever, other Blue Sky, and just talking. And you're going to hear a lot of mean stuff, and you're going to get a lot of quiet, and no one's going to give a crap. But little by little, someone will follow and be interested.
It's mostly
Yeah, it is quiet, man. It gets, it's scary quiet. Sometimes you're like, oh, I suck at this. I'm bad, and everyone knows I'm bad, and I should feel bad, and I don't want to do this anymore. And then you know what? You post again later on because someone will hit that like button, and maybe they'll read your stuff.
Our Instagram used to be like, Dylan put me in like a routine like a couple of years ago, like when he was still in upstate New York and not Nashville. And he's like, just pick a time every day, doesn't matter the time of the day, and like make a post on Instagram. So I did that, and I think that's why that's the biggest following that I have is Instagram, which is not like a ton.
I used to have a massive following on Reddit, but I got blocked. I got banned from that for some reason. They were never specific.
Say why you got banned.
I'm just saying they never specified. It was just I tried to get on one day, and it was like, you suck. You're banned.
But like, you still have to do it. Like, you got to do the influencer thing, even though you don't want to be an influencer. Like you said, you got the biggest following on Instagram because you did it. You played the game, and it sucks. And I think a lot of people want the arts to not be a pay-to-play industry. We all recognize that sucks. It sucks that we have to spend all of our hard-earned money to maybe make an inkling at a job we don't hate. But that doesn't change the reality of that is what it is. Yeah. And if you want to be a part of it, you have to play the game at least somewhat, and that means getting on Instagram and posting every day at 3:00, even if it's just a picture.
Oh, it's 10:30 at night every day.
Because you after work and after everybody else went to bed, and you had the moment of, I got to do this thing before I can pass out, right? Before I can play a round of Overwatch, I got to put those, Instagram post out. And it's the same way with my TikToks, and I'm really bad at it still to this day. But what I have started doing is when I don't post a video, I do a live. I do a live for an hour, and that gets me a few followers. It gets a few people to check it out, and it lets me have a conversation with the few people who are willing to try out a new comic book creator, right? Like, I'm not as affable as Kyle Higgins, and so they don't let me write Power Rangers, but maybe I'm cool enough that we can chat while you're on your lunch break, and you just need to stop seeing somebody shake their butt for 30 seconds on TikTok. And because I won't do that, you don't want to see that, and you can't afford it. So like, I'll get on, I'll answer questions about writing comic books, finding a publisher. I get asked a lot of Batman questions. I don't know why. Don't write anything about Batman. I have no authority over Batman. I like Batman.
You look just like
to
him.
talk about him. Exactly. So sometimes I just talk about Batman for an hour. Yesterday I talked about Invincible for a long time. That was most of the questions in there.
And hot dogs. We talked.
And hot dogs. Well, the hot dogs thing was because I was on K-pop Junkies show. She's also from Michigan, and her audience loves talking about hot dogs. That was like a big portion of it. So it just became the thing. Here's the thing. I love it. I'm a giant fan of hot dogs. It's a weird thing. I know that, but I'm a fat guy and I love hot dogs. I didn't expect to talk about it professionally, but I'll do it if you're going to check out the comic book. And I have a lot of opinions on them. So if it works, it works. I don't know what they're going to want to talk about, but be willing to do that. Because when I try to just talk about comic books, especially when I try to just talk about mine, Hellion and Bash, Tokyo Fire, what have you, no one gives a shit. They're like, I don't know what that is. I don't care about it. But sometimes you talk about hot dogs long enough, they go, hey, this guy's talking about hot dogs. Why? And they go, oh, well, because he makes this comic book called Hellion and Bash, and then you sell 3 copies. And so you just got to play the game. And I wish more people would, because you guys have awesome comic books and other people do. And it sucks sometimes that we're all relegated to, oh, well, they're indie guys. I'm like, no, we're awesome. I promise. We're awesome. Just give us a chance.
Yeah. That's why I give away so many digital copies of it. It's like, that don't cost me anything. Right. And if I can get a new fan and someone who's interested in Bad Wabbit, then it was worth the email click. I've gotten so many people since I've started doing that, because I was gatekeeping it for a while. I was like, oh no, I want to make money. I don't want to
spoil it.
I don't want to do that. So, but I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna get the word out, I have to literally get the word out. So I was putting it out there, putting it free on different websites, putting it free on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. And I've gotten so many messages, dude, this is really cool. When's the next one coming out or whatever, and I get some really good reviews on Amazon. And it was just like, cool. I think that worked. Even if I get like 3 new fans, that's 3 new fans.
Hell yeah, 3's huge. Like, in the percentage of how many fans that we have by comparison to other stuff.
Oh yeah.
like I was talking to a small publisher the other day, and they're like, well, like we look for our number ones to do at least 7,000 copies. So if you sign with us, do you think you could get that? And I'm like, I don't know. I sold 30. Does that scale up by having your name on the box? Because if it doesn't, I'm not bringing you 7,000. I don't know 7,000 people, and
Right.
you know, like I have 1,500 people on TikTok. I have 4 on Blue Sky. So like, if that tells you anything about where they'll follow me, like I don't think I can do that. Yeah, but so like when people are like, well, you know, I got one sale for you. I'm like, that's giant. That's huge. Like maybe my kids get to eat tomorrow because of that. Like you know, that's the thing. Like and not to put this out there like that, but if you don't buy Hellion and Bash #2 on Kickstarter right now, listen, I don't know what's gonna happen. You know, I got 2 kids at home. I got 2 pets. I got a dog and a cat and a wife. If you don't buy the comic book, who knows? Maybe they don't get to eat tomorrow. I know I won't get to eat tomorrow. We're talking about all those hot dogs. If you want me to be able to afford to buy hot dogs, you got to buy Hellion and Bash. That's
Right.
just that's how it goes. It's the circle of
Put
life.
that as a stretch goal, like you get to eat. When you get this.
There you go. There you go.
My kids get 3 grains more of rice every time you buy a copy. For legal reasons, in case my publisher sees this, I feed my children and my wife. So everyone gets fed. It's all good.
Well, yeah, at conventions we actually we're talking about our comics, but like sometimes people just come up and start talking about random shit. There's these 2 guys that were cosplaying with like just like night gear on, like heavy, like it was heavy, and then I was like, how is that not sweaty right now? And they're like, oh no, I'm like dying, and I'm like, why are you wearing this? And they're just standing there like talking to us like for a while, and then this one of them was talking to me about the comics. The other one, his friend, was talking to Dylan about Nashville barbecue beer. I was like, what are you talking about? You were talking to him for 45 minutes about beer? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right. We don't sell beer, Dylan. He's like, yeah, but you sold that comic to him. I was like, yeah, because I guess he likes cats. So, but yeah.
So yeah, man, maybe we could just do some beer. Get some mittens beer. Some mittens malt liquor.
Do whatever it takes to sell the comic book, get people to know about it. Whether you got to give it away, you got to throw it at people. I like today at the Comic-Con, I didn't get a chance to table. I didn't have enough know ahead like to actually get a table. But I was walking around and I was looking for any shops that were there that had a physical space because I could give them a free comic and go, hey, if you like this, you can order a few from me, or I can come over, we can hang out, we can talk. And there was like no shops at this Comic-Con. It was all people who have collections out of their garage who come here to like market it. And there was one shop, and I came up and he was like, dude, I don't want to buy anything. I bought that action figure from that guy. That guy bought it from me. And then he sold it to somebody else who brought it back to sell it to me. And like, I was like, I don't want to buy anything indie. And I was like, no, I'm going to give you this. You can have this whole box of stuff. If you like them, you can sell them and you can tell me about it. And then you can buy more. And he was like, what? Okay, so you're serious. You're a real guy who's doing a thing. And the best thing you can do is give away whatever you can and surprise people with how good it is. Because again, like we mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, is people hear indie, they think amateur, and you can prove them wrong, right? When I listen, I'm not gonna lie, I've opened up a SeerNova book going, what the heck is this gonna be? And I'm like, oh, this is rad. Okay, this is my bad. I apologize, Greg. Like I didn't know. I thought it was gonna be crappy. I get handed a lot of crappy books. And the same thing with Bad Wabbit. When you sent me the link, I was like, oh, this is gonna be drawn with a green crayon. And it was awesome. And I'm so excited for everything that you guys do. And with the best compliment I get when I go on a podcast or whatever is they go, actually, it was pretty good. And they go, oh, you can't say that. And I'm like, no, that's awesome because you had low expectations and I impressed you. If you had high expectations, you probably would have been disappointed. But the fact that you thought it was going to suck and you thought it was going to be drawn with a green crayon in my garage, it wasn't. We're all professionals. You just haven't heard of us yet. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing I want to stress every time somebody hears about this stuff is give the indie stuff a chance because that's what TMNT was, right? Like no one had heard of it. They were drawing these black and white comics. They had ash can copies that they stapled themselves and walked into the shelves and it hid them there, right? And now it's gigantic. It's everywhere. I saw Kevin Eastman today signing copies of Last Ronin. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
I think it's gonna be a movie.
It's supposed to be a live action movie, and if they don't use the model of the old '80s Turtles, I am walking out. If it looks like Michael Bay's, I am done.
I want them specifically to hunt down the rubber costumes from the '90s movie.
Yes, exactly.
Not the third one. They had real weird freckles.
Yeah,
I didn't like
yeah,
those ones.
that was good. But the ones from the first movie were fantastic, and I think that even if they did like a CGI of it, but kept that model, that look
of it, right? Like,
you know, that would be. If you go on YouTube, there's some test footage of yeah,
it's gorgeous,
yeah,
man.
it was awesome, and I was like, dude, if they did the last run like that, I'm all in. I don't care. Whatever.
I watched the Michael Bay ones. I wasn't a giant fan, but I paid to see. I'm part of the problem. I paid to see 1 and 2, right? Like, see, like I'm the guy who went and seen Craven,
Same.
right? Like, Craven was awful. I did not enjoy it. I paid to see it. I saw that and Madam Web day 1 at midnight.
Nope.
Like,
I haven't seen either of those.
I don't care about like movie critics, like what they say, but like,
no, but it still wasn't good. Like, it
bad,
still was bad. Like, the critics were right, you know. But like, I remember a time when these things didn't exist. I remember a time when the only thing indie you could ever see possible was TMNT, and now it's not like that. We could never get a good Spider-Man film. Now we get a good Spider-Man film every other year. And, you know, we didn't get any sort of spin-off. So, yeah, they might be crappy, but the fact that we're getting a Madam Web movie, I lived in a world where we got the Rocketeer and that was it. You know, so I'm going to go and support these.
That's one they need to come back with. And
they Rocketeer again.
Especially with the updated graphics and special effects, man, it would be fantastic.
My favorite movie as a kid was The Shadow with Alec Baldwin.
Oh yeah,
because I loved the radio plays and the
I
old
remember
comic
watching
books and
that.
the pulp stuff, and that was the
Dick
closest thing we
Tracy.
got to like a badass like alternate, you know, Batman thing. And the fact that we get so much of it, I try not to take it for granted. I want to watch all of it, but people just have to remember that started because people took a chance on a thing they never heard of, right? This was the Daredevil, you know, parody book, and people forget that's where it came from. So I see people, they're like, what does this guy think, he's writing Batman? No, I know I'm not writing Batman. Give it a shot. You might love that I'm not writing Batman. We could not write Batman together. Like, we could, you know, like, give it a chance, because if you only go and buy and check out the stuff that you've heard of, that's how AI happens, right? It just eats itself.
Yeah.
It's the Ouroboros effect. You're only going to get the same thing over and over again, and we already see those complaints. They reboot this and they remake that. That only happens, like, it only changes if you give the new things a shot. And Image isn't, you know, beating down our door tomorrow. Dark Horse isn't returning my calls. So if you want to check out this stuff, you got to go to Kickstarter and you got to go back our random projects. And when one of them fails or is going to, so we do another one, reward us with that perseverance, reward us with not giving up, and go check out the next one. I want you to be disappointed that you didn't get a chance to check out Seer Chronicles, so you check out Night Watch. So eventually, you know, Fish can pay me money to buy hot dogs. Like, it needs to happen, and I think people forget that that's where these cool comic books come from. They can't all come from James Tynion. I know most of them do, but they can't all come from him and Snyder and DeConnick. Like, there are other people that do make books that you just don't know yet. You might not have heard of us. That's my rant. I'm sorry I got up on my soapbox. I drank too much caffeine before this.
Let's take one look at both of y'all's campaigns real quick before we get out of here. I do have kids that I've neglected to hang out with.
Again, they gotta get fed.
Yeah, gotta go feed them that grain of rice.
Well, no, I mean, able to afford it. We don't know how many people backed while we were on this.
Well, let's show them where to go. So, if you guys want to back Hellion and Bash, here it is. This is what it looks like. You can go to Kickstarter, type it in, Hellion and Bash issue 2. I'm sure there's an issue 1, and I'm sure it's included in this.
You can catch up on both. You can get issue 1 and 2 there, I promise. I made the mistake of doing issues 1 through 2. Everyone told me to, and I said, no, you're dumb. And it turns out I am. So I apologize. Issue 1 is there, though. I promise you can catch up, and you can buy all the other stuff I've ever made on here as well.
Awesome. And it looks great. I mean, the artwork's fantastic. I think it's going to be an awesome book, man.
Thank
So
you.
congratulations, and I'm positive it's going to fund.
Listen, I hope you and Nostradamus know what you're talking about, and it's you've already seen it in your mind's eye or whatever. I know we have a different seer. I'd like to get his opinion to know because the guy at the clairvoyance actually weigh in. But I really hope it funds, and if it doesn't, you'll see me because I'll be out on the street asking you for change.
I do that already, so you're good. All right, and now let's check out Night Watch. That looks so good. So this is Night Watch. It's in pre-launch mode right now. If you guys want to look that up, it's Night Watch 1 by Greg. And you can push the notify me on launch. In fact, I'm going to do that right now.
I'm doing that right now on both of your projects before I forget.
And I think I already backed. Yeah, I got the digital copy on Hellion and Bash.
Oh, heck yeah, man. Thank you.
So, but yeah. So go check out Night Watch. It's going to be launch. You know when it's going to launch? Do you have any kind of
on my birthday?
On your birthday.
That's the character is me.
What's your birthday?
April 2nd.
Okay.
So that's I know I do weird things like that just because it makes me happy.
I apologize for not knowing your birthday ahead of time.
Oh yeah, how dare
My wife has told me that's a problem when I don't remember people's birthdays. She might have just been talking about hers, but maybe she meant yours as
well. Yeah. So it's launching on April 2nd, and then it's gonna end May 2nd, and I'll be in Disney when it ends, so I can't do like a countdown thing.
And then of course
my phone or whatever. But yeah.
And then of course we got Bad Wabbit. That I'm not exactly sure when we're gonna launch because see my thing is like I said, I'm in a dead zone and it's like pulling teeth out of an alligator around here trying to get people to follow it. And I'm doing my best on social media. I mean, I was literally walking out around town in negative 20 degrees with a handful of flyers. I started to literally get frostbite on my fingers. So I am doing my best that I can do to get the word out and then let everybody know. So everybody, if you can go back this, it's not live yet. It's pre-launch. This is just the preview page. But definitely go click the notify me on launch button. It's going to be an awesome. I mean, it's going to be awesome.
Do you have a mailing list yet?
Huh?
Do you
get that newsletter going?
Do you have a newsletter, like a Substack?
No, I don't know how to do all that stuff because I'm retarded when it comes to that.
Dylan doesn't even know really anything about Substack. So he's like, well, did you send an email? I'm like, a post. He's like, no, an email. I'm like, same fucking thing, bud. And he's like, oh. I was like,
I mean, I've got my email on my
MailChimp. MailChimp, you have to pay once it hits 500 or some stupid shit like that. But,
but you can also use Substack, which is free. But you can also just, it's 2025. You have an Excel sheet. You can make your own mailing list. Reach out to everybody who has backed your previous projects or at least agreed to, and ask them, hey, can I put you on a mailing list? Because that's legal. If they say yes, add them to that list and just send them a newsletter of, hey, are you excited about Bad Wabbit? Here's the art that I have so far. Here's when I'm thinking about launching it. Are you excited about it? Please message me. And that's what you use it for. And you cultivate that list and ask them when you run the project in your survey, hey, do you want to join my mailing list? And it seems weird, but comedians have been doing it for a decade, as well as indie bands. It's how you build that list and stay in contact with people who might be important to you. I have 300 or so people on the list. Most of the people aren't going to open it, but a few do. And a few of those people who opened it don't unsubscribe and then go and back the thing. And it seems silly and it seems weird, but it's totally doable with Gmail and an Excel sheet. You have the power is yours, as Captain Planet says. You can do this, and knowing is half the battle. I don't know how many more I can slip in.
I will definitely have to get on that because it's coming down to the wire.
Do it, you coward! And also, you other cowards, go and check out Bad Wabbit.
Do you ask that question in your surveys? Because I don't pay attention. I just like fill out the survey. So
I sure do. And listen, I got your email now, buddy. You just clicked yes. I also am owed your firstborn child and your left arm. So I'm coming to collect on that one day. No, I ask that in all the surveys. I say like, hey, give me your email address, and is it okay if I put you on the
security number?
Yeah, I would love your social security number, your blood type, and any fingernails that you have lying around. Don't ask what I do with them, but just call the four corners with me.
Well, it's been a blast hanging out with you guys, man.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to definitely do this again.
Yeah, thanks for
heck yeah, man.
Thanks for
So from everybody, Greg, TS, and me over here at the Castro's Comic Book Corner, I would like to say thank you for watching, if anybody has, and I bid you all a fond farewell. Much love, good luck, God bless, and goodbye.